Tesla earnings today are in the after hours, and I think that it could be absolutely electrifying. In this video, I will give my projections on the earnings estimates, and I will give what I would think will happen to the stock price as a result. So I do want to get right into it. So here we go. I'll put it up here for you. So these numbers that you see in these first two columns right here, these are Tesla's actual numbers from the year ago quarter and the most recent quarter that we've had from their earnings. And a few things that I want to note to you as we look at this is that right now I'm projecting about 15% quarter over quarter growth, which is still down about 6.2% year over year. However, that's just for the automotive revenues. When we look at energy generation and storage, we, I think, are going to see a record quarter from this, given the amount of deployment that we got, 9.4 gigawatt hours, which was more than double what we saw the previous quarter. So that I have that revenue going up about 131%. So double and then another 30% on top of it, and double and another 50%, another half yet on top of it on a year over year basis. And I think that this growth right here in revenue is going to outweigh that little bit of contraction year over year that we saw from the automotive side of things. So going down, total revenues up 22%, quarter over quarter, year over year up 4%. So we're going to return back to revenue growth, at least as far as I have the projection out right now. And we also start to see some more expansion coming back to the total GAAP gross margin, a 3% increase, but still down 2% year over year. So again, these are my projections based off of everything that we know right now, the best that we can tell from their last earnings call that we have, from the delivery information, you name it. So moving on from there, operating expenses, income from operations, I think is going to be much higher this quarter. I have it almost double the previous quarter, still down 4%. And then getting down to what people really want to see, what does that look like in a net income basis, and what does that look like for earnings per share? So when we look on a non-GAAP basis, or even, well, GAAP first, double the earnings that we had last quarter, still down 11%. And then up almost double from what we had in the previous quarter, but still down about 11% year over year. And then I have my EPS projections on this on a GAAP basis, 69 cents, or as what you'll see from them, I think that's going to come around on a non-GAAP basis around 81 cents per share, which is not a record-setting quarter. However, I do want to point out that the revenue that I have projected is a record-setting quarter for revenue. So that can be something very exciting for a headline that I think can help catalyze the stock price. And then I think also down here, the fact that I think that we're going to get so much more EPS boost out of this. And this might be a little bit of a bullish case as we look at it. This is one that I think could be absolutely incredible, especially if it ties back to what we have for energy generation and storage revenue. So if this is something that we can expect to continue with that higher margin rocking just south of 25% margin on this business versus the shrinking margins, or the stabilized, shrunken, now stabilized margins that we had for automotive revenues, that would allow them to be more competitive in the automotive space. It would allow them to get more full self-driving miles on the road, which would be better AI training for their full self-driving software. We do want to hear a commentary from them about what things look like going forward in terms of robo-taxi, anything they can enlighten us about there, energy generation and storage, and then services and other revenue. Mind you, this is one, services and other revenue, I think leaves some room in here for a bit more of an increase. I think this is one that I want a little bit soft on. I matched up to what we had in the year ago quarter for that one. So we'll see if that's one that lands around that number. I do think that there's some opportunity for strength there. Maybe it's balanced by a little bit of weakness here. We'll see. The average selling price I had about 45,000 per EV. So that's one for all 444-ish thousand Teslas that were delivered in this last quarter. That's what I have that at. And then the energy generation and storage, like I said, that should translate really well. That is something that's actually starting to add substantial amounts to the bottom line if we are still rocking around that 25%. So other things that I think are really worth paying attention to. One is that in the last quarter for free cash flow, we actually went backwards and took a hit to free cash flow. I think this quarter we returned to seeing a positive traction in that cash flow, especially without having the overhang that we did last time of having so much inventory on our hands. This time, reducing some of that inventory, helping to boost this top number that we have here, not only by the net income, but also by having less inventory on hand. I think that's going to help prop that number up, where we had an inventory drag on this last number, plus a lower net income overall. So I think that this this is actually, I think, going to be pretty good for us. I do think that there's going to be a higher amount of CapEx, and that comes from their earnings call transcript from the last quarter, where they said that they expect to spend more than $10 billion in CapEx through 2024. So that would put us on pace. We spent about 25% of that $10 billion in the last quarter. So this quarter, we could either keep that somewhat normalized, so that would actually allow for more of that free cash flow to come out. And then if it is something that comes on a little bit strong, and I mind you, I wanted to pinch that off a little bit and go a little bit aggressive on that CapEx just in case. So we'll look and see if that really does come out to be about $3.15 billion in CapEx. If they go a little bit softer on that and keep it a little bit closer to what we had in the previous quarter, that would still put them over that $10 billion worth of spend. But with it even being aggressive the way that I have it, we still have about $451 million coming back to free cash flow and starting to put cash back in their pockets. And that, I think, could also be very strong for the stock price for Tesla. So how does this compare then to what the analysts are saying? I have Yahoo brought up so that you can see that compared to what I have. How bullish is this case that we have right here? And then I'll get to what it means for the stock price momentarily. But in the pre-market hours, rocking close to 254. Analyst estimates, you can see with the analyst recommendations that we had a lot through April, May, and June, and then July, a little bit lower in this one probably because earnings are coming up for us, but we've had massive appreciation in the stock price, especially through June, through July. And so that is something worthwhile to keep in mind. Since that delivery news came out, it's certainly changed some of what we've seen. We've actually had, if I scroll down here a little bit, the upward revisions that we've had in the current quarter. There have been 14 upward revisions, and there's been 1 down. So if you pay attention to that, that could tell us, and now mind you, they can be based off deliveries and what we saw from energy generation and storage. Now about EPS itself, if we look from 29 analysts, on this one, the average analyst estimate is 62 cents, whereas I have it at 81. The low estimate is 42. The high estimate is 87. And you can see the year ago EPS on this coming out at 91. So I'm not at the highest one. I am near the top of that though. So I think that this is one that we surprised to the upside on. I think that there's reasons to be bullish on it. There's no guarantees here. This is just the best that we can know, at least that I can know from what's here, because I want to put my best foot forward, and I am going into earnings with a bullish bias, and we'll see if that plays out for me. And with that said, let's get over to the stock charts. So here's the chart that we're looking at, and you can see some of the technicals that I have on here with the areas of resistance and support. And I said in my group yesterday, I expect to come into earnings right around 250. We're riding the top trend line of this consolidation pattern right now, and in the pre-market hours, it looks like we're popping up above that right around 254-ish. And so that is about to be expected. I don't know that we'll break outside of that prior to earnings. We'll see if other people are expecting things to be bullish going into earnings. This is one that if I'm wrong, it's going to drop like a rock. It's going to drop very hard. And, then we have support coming in at 231, and then we could possibly come down to 200. That's if we hear that this is a one-off quarter, if there's a lot of anticipation of not really good things coming for us. I think that Elon is going to give the stockholders a lot of things to be excited about in this earnings call going forward from here. And I think that we could possibly be hitting that next part of the growth curve. Now, mind you, want to keep in mind macroeconomics and geopolitical tensions. Those risks are something that are probably going to weigh heavily. They're probably going to be mentioned during the earnings call. And so we'll see if those risks cast enough doubt in order to tank the stock anyway. We'll see if earnings don't come out as strong. We're just going to have to see. But I just wanted to come out here and tell you that I am playing with this with a bullish bias. We have 271 to the top side, and I think that we could easily go north of 271, and I think that it is possible that along that ride, as we take that ride, if the market holds out throughout the next 30 days or so, that we are going to see that $300 price tag come out of this. So there's no guarantees. It could most definitely happen. It could still be between now and the full self-driving day. We're just going to have to see if we take that ride to the upside, or I should say if we continue that ride to the upside, as I believe we have a strong possibility of doing so. We need to hear the commentary on energy generation and storage, services, and other. We want to hear about those expanding margins, those high revenue portions of the business. Are they going to continue to grow the way that they're growing? Was this a one-off quarter? What about the EV deliveries themselves? Now, mind you, if we have those high margin pieces coming up through, and we expect to see more growth from that over time, especially in the near term, that can help us out in the next 6 months, 12 months. That can also help us out So we need to hear that commentary. We need to see when their earnings come out, what exactly they have to say. It would be nice if we keep the deliveries somewhat consistent to what they are now. Some of that can be forgiven if we hear good things about services and other revenue coming in, and also energy generation and storage continuing to grow rapidly, especially at high margins and at reduced cost, also being part of that. So thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. I am going into this bullish. Like I said, I think that we could hit 271 plus on earnings if I'm right. If I'm wrong, 231 is what we have to look for, and potentially below that over time as the excitement will likely settle down and some of the shine will come off the stock. That's if I'm wrong. And, you know, this is my best shot. We'll put our best foot forward on this one, and I'll let you guys know how I do. If you guys want to see my buys and sells and how I'm playing this market, if you want to hear more of my commentary, there's a link in the description for the Patreon. Click that, sign up, join me and my community members over at the Discord, and you can see my buys and sells in that Discord as well. And then also, if you learn to do technical analysis trading like I do, there's a link down in the description for that course. Click that and sign up and really learn to empower your portfolio through technical analysis trading. Thank you very much for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.